Number 13 question in 2023 bar exam. Masikaso Water Company, MWC, a private concessionaire, entered into a 25-year concession agreement in 2009 with the Metropolitan and Sewerage System (MWSS) for the delivery of water supply, wastewater and sanitation services in the city of Manila. In 2019, residents of Manila filed a complaint against MWC with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources Pollution Adjudication Board for violation of the Clean Water Act (CWA). The residents allege that the severe flooding in Manila and worsening pollution in Manila Bay has been due to the failure of MWC to provide for adequate sewage and or septage treatment facilities as mandated under the concession agreement. MWC countered that the primary duty to construct sewerage and or septage treatment facilities rests upon the local government unit LGU under Section 7 of the CWA, which states each LGU shall appropriate the necessary land, including rights of way, road access to the land for construction of the sewage and or septage treatment facilities. MWC thus maintained that it must be absolved from any form of liability considering that the City of Manila clearly failed to comply with Section 7 of the CWA. Is MWC correct? Explain. Answer no. MWC is incorrect. This future bar examinee and future Filipino lawyer begs to qualify the answer that according to the jurisprudence decided by the Honorable Court in the case of Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System Petitioner versus the Pollution Adjudication Board and Environmental Management Bureau, respondents it stated, in all, nothing in Section 7 and 8 of the Clean Water Act or its IRR states or at the very least implies that the former is a condition precedent of the latter from the foregoing. It is apparent that the obligation imposed on petitioner by Section 8 as implemented by the Rule 8 of DAO number 0510 to connect the existing sewerage lines is mandatory and unconditional. After the expiration of the 5-year compliance period, the obligatory force of Section 8 becomes immediate and can be enforced against petitioners without subordination to the happening of a future and uncertain event. Thus, the terms of Section 8 are absolute. Ripe for this court's determination is the fact of compliance or lack thereof by the concessionaires with Section 8 of the Clean Water Act and its correlative implication based from the foregoing. A reassessment of petitioner's liability is in order. Manila and Manila Water are distinctly accountable under their respective concession agreements for the fines imposed by the SANR at the initial rate of 200,000 pesos a day from May 7, 2009 until date of promulgation of the decision. In the total amount of 921,464,184 pesos per concessionaire. MWSS shall be solidarily liable for these liabilities for fines of its concessionaires having bound itself to have jurisdiction, supervision, and control over all waterworks and sewerage system within Metro Manila, the entire province of Rizal, a portion of Cavite, and a portion of Bulacan, and for granting Manila and Manila Water the right to operate the waterworks and sewerage areas in the service areas. Thereafter, they shall be fined in the amount of 322,000 pesos and 102 pesos. 322,102 pesos a day, subject to the biennial 10% adjustment provided under Section 28 until petitioners shall have fully complied with Section 8 of the Clean Air Act. The fines shall likewise earn legal interest of 6% per annum from finality of this decision until full satisfaction thereof. To conclude, the facts stated, MWC countered that the primary duty to construct sewerage and or sewage treatment facilities rests upon the LGU under Section 7 of CWA. Thus, the foregoing case hurdles and struck down the contention of MWC that it must be absolved from any form of liability, considering that the City of Manila clearly failed to comply with Section 7 of the CWA. So that's it. Number 4 question in criminal law. During a concert at nighttime held in the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Chito physically assaulted another attendee but Butch. Chito slapped Butch several times in front of the President of the Philippines, who was present. Are there any modifying circumstances affecting the criminal liability of Chito? Explain your answer. Answer yes. There is modifying circumstance affecting the criminal liability of Chito. This future bar examinee and future Filipino lawyer begs to qualify the answer that according to the law in revised penal code in book 1 chapter 4 circumstances which aggregate criminal liability article 14 aggravating circumstances. The following are aggravating circumstances: 5 that the crime be committed in the palace of the chief executive or in his presence or where public authorities are engaged in the discharge of their duties or in a place dedicated to religious worship. To conclude, the facts stated Chito slapped Butch several times in front of the President of the Philippines who was present. Thus, it can't be denied that there is a modifying circumstance of aggravating the penalties. Last question for today. Santiago, civil question, and Lucia started to live together as common law husband and wife in 2000. In the course of their relationship, they acquired several properties which included 600 square meter house and lot in Quezon City, a condominium unit in Taguig City, a 4 hectare rest house in Batangas, a Range Rover while vehicle Lexus R times RX 350 car, and Indian Chief Babar motorcycle. The purchase were mainly due to the successful salon and water refilling service business of Lucia. Unfortunately, the records of their purchases were destroyed during Typhoon Nondoy in 2009. In 2023, their relationship turned sour and Lucia now wants to part ways with Santiago. However, there is disagreement on how to divide their properties. Lucia filed a case in a family court claiming the title to all of the properties. Is Lucia correct? Explain briefly. Answer: no. Lucia is incorrect. This future bar examinee and future Filipino lawyer begs to qualify the answer that according to the Family Code Article 147 is stated when When a man and a woman who are capacitated to marry each other live exclusively with each other as husband and wife without the benefit of marriage or under void marriage, their wages and salary shall be owned by them in equal shares in the property acquired by both of them through their work or industry shall be governed by the rules on co-ownership. In the absence of proof to the contrary, properties acquired while they live together shall be presumed to have been obtained by their joint efforts or industry and shall be owned by them in equal shares for purposes of this article. A party who did not participate in the acquisition by the other party of any property shall be deemed to have contributed jointly in the acquisition thereof if the former's efforts consisted in the care and maintenance of the family of the household. Neither a party can encumber or dispose by acts either inter vivos of his or her share in the property acquired during cohabitation and owned in common without the consent of the other until after the termination of their cohabitation. When only one of the parties to avoid marriage is in good faith, the share of the party in bad faith in the ownership shall be forfeited in favor of their common children. In case of default of or waiver by any of all the common children or their descendants, and each vacant share shall belong to the respective surviving descendants. In the absence of descendants, such share shall belong to the innocent party. In all cases, the forfeiture shall take place upon termination of the cohabitation. Further, Article 148, in cases of cohabitation not falling under the preceding article, under the properties acquired by both of the parties through their actual joint contribution of money, property, or industry, shall be owned by them in common in proportion to their respective contributions. In the absence of proof of the contrary, their contributions and corresponding shares are presumed to be equal. The same rule and presumption shall apply to joint deposits of money and evidence of credit. If one of the parties is validly married to another, his or her share in the ownership shall accrue to the absolute community or conjugal partnership existing in such valid marriage. If the party who acted in bad faith, it is not validly married to another, his or her share shall be forfeited in the manner provided in the last paragraph of the preceding article. The foregoing rules on forfeiture shall likewise even apply even if both parties are in bad faith. Article 144A. In same bill, in Aboy versus Wigan, year number 146294, July 31, 2006, is stated, any property acquired by common law spouses during their period of cohabitation is presumed to have been obtained through joint efforts and is owned by them in equal shares in the absence of proof to the contrary. Their property relationship is governed by the rules on co-ownership, and under this regime, they own their properties to common in equal shares. To conclude, the fact stated Santiago and Lucia stated started to live together as common law husband and wife in 2000. In 2023, their relationship turned sour and Lucia now wants to part ways with Santiago. Thus, they have co-ownership and it's undisputed. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Particularly to your time devoted to find out the best answer for the 2023 bar exam. Thank you and God bless.